we kick off today's episode, I got something that could save you a ton of time this season. If you're a grassroots coach trying to juggle work, life, and soccer, Soccer Coach Weekly is an absolute game changer. Since 2006, they have been trusted by coaches from all over the world, delivering fun, ready-to-go drills that keep players focused, learning, and loving the game, even when you're short on time. And here's the best part. Chat by the Pitch listeners get 50% off a full year of premium access. Just click the link in show notes and use the promo code Ian50 at checkout. That's Ian50 for half off. Plan fast, coach smart, Soccer Coach Weekly.
I want to tell you about something I've used and I truly believe in. Replayer. It's a sideline camera built for youth sports. Just set it up, hit record, and it captures the entire game automatically. No chasing the ball, no holding your phone, just hands-free, stress-free recording. The in-game tagging is one of my favorite features. One tap, and you can mark a big goal, ankle-breaking moves, or a clutch tackle. Then pull those clips for later for review, highlights, or social media. And the live streaming's next level. A buddy of mine actually watched his son's game while flying cross-country at 30,000 feet. That blew me away. If you're a parent or coach at the field every weekend, Replayer is a game changer. Head to replayer.com. That's REEPLAYER.com, and I think you'll be amazed. Hey soccer friends, I just want to give a shout out to our partner, Team Player. They are changing the game on how you find the perfect soccer team for your player. Parents, this means no more endless social media scrolling to find information on teams. With Team Player, everything you need to know is just a few clicks away. It's simple, straightforward, and lets you find the best coach and team for your player without any of the usual headaches. And coaches, we all know how tough it can be to get your team noticed, but when you subscribe to one of Team Player's team plans, you instantly get access to set up an online team profile that allows you to reach more potential players and showcase what your team is all about. It's super easy and lets players and parents see why your team could be the right fit for them. And if you sign up using the promo code PITCH, you can try any team plan free for 1 month. So whether you're managing a team or searching for one, come on over to www.teamplayer.us. That is TEAMPLAYR.US. And come give Team Player a look. Family-owned Soccer Innovation is your go-to source for top quality equipment. Whether you're a player, a supportive family member, or a dedicated coach, they have everything you need to elevate your game. For players, their innovative equipment are designed to boost your skills and performance on the pitch. From their agility cones to their portable goals, they have you covered. And family members, they offer durable equipment that's built to last because we know your support is critical to your player. Coaches, trust me, they can provide the equipment you need to run effective training sessions and shape the next generation of soccer players. Visit Soccer Innovations at soccerinnovations.com to start elevating your game with them. And if you use the code PITCH, PITCH, you can receive up to 10% off your next order. Hey everyone, this is Ian Babcock, your host of Chat by the Pitch. This week I have Tracey Leone from UNC. She's the assistant coach there. She's bounced all over the collegiate system, has coached internationally, has coached for the national team. It was an honor to do this interview. I'm not going to share too much. I did have a little bit of technical difficulty in the beginning of it, so she doesn't get to say her name. Like I always have with all my guests, it just cuts right into who she is right now in her role. Before I say too much more, this is a 2-part series with her, and let's start this chat and head to the pitch.
I'm one of the assistant coaches at the University of North Carolina with the women's soccer program. I grew up playing in Dallas all the way up until college, went to school at University of North Carolina, and then I've coached all around collegiately and internationally. up until the current time.
Awesome. And I'll be honest, I didn't do much research on you, and anything I did find was by magic of luck of reading something about you, and I was trying to find a little bit about you. Let's start with your history with this beautiful game. So how old were you when you started, and what was the hook that made you fall in love with it?
Well, it's funny. My older sister, who's 2 years older, started playing when she was 8 years old. And that's when we started playing with the neighborhood kids. And I tagged along with my older sister pretty much my whole life. She was my hero and one of my best friends still to this day. And so she allowed me to tag along, and we played with the neighborhood boys and girls up from maybe a year or two younger than me, all the way up to 4 years older than me, all different sports, but in particular soccer up at the rec center. And so we fell in love with it really early. And my mom, for some reason, wanted us to wait until we were 8 to be on an organized team. And so, of course, when my sister got on one, we were begging. I have a twin sister and an older sister. And we were begging, Mom, when are we going to get to be on a team? And for some reason, she said 8 years old is the cutoff. So we had to wait till we were 8. And then we were on an organized team. We started just playing with the neighborhood kids, and we literally played with the neighborhood kids all the way up until I went to college. And I think that was something that built the foundation of soccer for me without me even realizing it, was playing with the neighborhood kids, boys and girls. And I learned the game so much by playing with them because they just didn't back off. And it was just a free-for-all indoor soccer before indoor soccer was commonplace. It was in a basketball gym with a regular ball. We would play and kick all the basketball players off because if they weren't hit by the ball, then they were pretty happy and they would leave on their own accord. We played every single day at the rec center. So it was like a street soccer environment in a way that we just always knew to meet up there after school. So we would come off the bus, drop off our school bags, eat a quick snack, and all run to the rec center and play indoor soccer every single day. And then every day in the summer as well. That's how my love for soccer began. And we became this soccer family as a result of it all.
So you said all of you played, both of your sisters, not just you?
Yep. My older sister began it, and we fell in love with it along with her. And my twin sister played up until high school and wasn't as interested in it as my older sister and I were. We all played, and even after college, both my sisters played as well. And so we just couldn't get enough of it. And really, when we were kids, that was our social network. This was one of the beauties growing up back in the day before the internet, before all this technology came about, was we were outside playing until dinner time. And as long as my mom knew where we were, I was raised by a single mother. So she was obviously very busy providing and working. As long as she knew where we were good to be out playing sports because she knew that was a healthy way for us to go about our day. And I think that gave her real peace of mind. And she knew all the kids that we hung out with and that we played with. As a parent, there was just no better environment for us to be in that was healthy and just positive for us. So that was my social network growing up, was through soccer.
Do you find that growing up and being entrenched in the game you said that's where your foster of the love came from, but do you think that created the drive that you needed to continue pushing yourself then?
I do. I think anytime you are trying to sort through what level of passion you have for something, and you mentioned the word drive, what kind of drive you have, it all boils down to how much you love what you're doing. That to me, and that's any level, that's recreation soccer all the way up to the women's national team. You have to really love what you're doing. And that's really with anything in life. Your goal in life is to find your passion, and hopefully that becomes your job. So it doesn't even feel like it is a job. You would choose to do it each day. And that would be the utopia, I think, for everybody. But yeah, I think playing with the neighborhood boys and girls in the neighborhood and just having fun playing soccer. It wasn't organized by a coach. It wasn't, of course, we did play organized soccer, but where my love began was just playing with and against the neighborhood kids. And that built our passion and where we just wanted to play it all the time. We would go in the backyard and practice dribbling, and my sister and I would juggle all the time. And we'd kick the ball against our neighbor's garage, the wall there on our driveway. And just every day, we were never found without a ball. And so I think it just began really organically by playing with the neighborhood kids. That's what we were doing.
I think that is missing very much in our sport, not just soccer, but our sports culture in general today. There's too many distractions for kids to be on electronics or TV, whatever it may be. My memories of my childhood sound like your memories of childhood. I remember coming home from school and saying hi to my mom and going right back out the door and jumping on my bike and riding the quarter mile down the street to go play with the neighbor kids. You don't have that today. We're either A, too busy, or B, not always a good place out there, or there's not a good place for them to go play.
I think you're right. I always have said if we can combine the old school ways with the new age opportunities, then we would be getting somewhere. I think just kids going out in the backyard, going to the rec center, going to a field and just playing and learning. They always say the game is the best teacher. And so that's where I felt as a kid, the game was the best teacher for me. I was really lucky to have amazing coaches growing up and really all throughout my life. But it started with just the game teaching me because we just played it all the time. And I agree with you. I think it's a different time now. You've got obviously technology and all these things that we didn't have back then. It's a different environment safety-wise as well. That's always a concern. I'm a parent as well. And so you want to make sure your child is safe. And times have changed. Pressures have changed. But to me, soccer was always a stress reliever. Going out for a run for soccer was always a stress reliever for me. But I know today's it's a different time. So I always said if we could combine playing pickup like we did in the olden days with all the opportunities now that the game provides, that would be the sweet spot for me.
I think we as parents have to take a step back and actually let them and actually kick them out the door. I feel like today I'm guilty of this. And sometimes it's easier just let them play. Son plays FIFA on his Switch, or my daughter she's much better than he is, but she'll go do her gymnastics in the living room with her pads that she has on the floor. And it's interesting what they gravitate to. And like you said, if we can leverage the technology, I think we'll be in the best scenario for the upcoming generation. Now, as you're playing, did you gravitate towards any position, or were you more of what I would call a jackknife player? You can play anywhere, anything growing up, or did you slowly, I always think by the age of 14, 15 years old, you need to be more honing in on your final position where you need to be on the pitch, have one or two places you're comfortable, or how is your journey getting to that point?
That's a really good question. I think when you grow up the way that we did, and I always say we had the best childhood ever. Even through high school, in the summers, we were going to swim team practice, then we were going to the rec center to play indoor soccer, then we were back at the pool, then we were going to soccer practice, then we were back to the pool. My mom really gave us this gift where she said, listen, you don't have to work until you get to college, and then I want you to start making some money in the summer. But right now, you guys work hard in school, you get really good grades. She trusted us. And she said, if you don't want to work through your high school years, you need that time away from school and just go enjoy it and play your sports and have fun. I'm game with that. And I thought that was one of the greatest gifts that she gave us because we could go play pickup soccer all the time. And so when you grow up that way, you kind of play everywhere. It's not organized soccer. You don't have a position. You're just playing. So I think probably from that, a midfield position probably suited me and it grew from that. I did start playing up front my very first position was a forward, which is funny, smaller, but that's where my coach put me to begin with. And then quickly I moved back into the midfield and really played more centrally until I got to college and with the national team, and I'm left-footed. So I ended up playing on the left flank more because certainly back then too, there weren't as many left-footed players and you always need left-sided players. That ended up suiting me really well, but I just settled into the midfield position, I think, relatively quickly. And the traits that I had as a young player, I always said, I want to be able to control the things that I can control. And that's technique and that's fitness. And so I constantly was working on those things along with just playing 3v3 at the rec center, playing on indoor teams, playing pickup, playing 1v1 in the front yard, whatever, wherever it might be. Those were two areas that I felt like, okay, I have control over these things and I'm going to be the best I can be. Hopefully the best on my team or the best on the field or whatever in those areas that I can control.
I think it's interesting you talk about the areas you can control, because I look back at my son right now. He's 11, and I look at my daughter. The two things that my daughter, she's learned very quickly. The one thing she controls is how much she runs on the field. That's why she loves playing goalie. My son, on the other hand, he can control everything but his emotions, and it's trying to teach them to go through these phases of development with the game. How have you seen yourself develop as time went on? Do you think I was explaining U11 and younger is training to train, U12 to U14 is training to develop, and U15, U14 and older is training to win? Do you find that you had that natural tendency to have that when you're growing up? Because the game's completely different today, but growing up playing, did you find yourself still having that type of philosophy that they've coached into the U.S. national system and rest of the coaching systems around the world, that those are the phases of training? Because as a parent, I can only imagine, from the sounds of it, all the pickup games you played really taught you to play. Love it. Do you think the portion of the game with lack of free play is hurting our game today then?
Yeah, I think it's funny the phases that you've talked about. I don't know that I've ever really heard it explained that way or broken it down. I think a lot can be dependent on the environment that you come from. We always, when we play pickup, we just naturally kept score. We were playing with and against a bunch of guys that were competitive. And so it was just normal to keep score and to find a winner. Next goal wins. And we did that in everything we did. So strangely, it taught us, without us even knowing, a little bit of how to compete. To me, like, development is from the first day you touch the vault. It's every single day you can do something to become better and develop. So to me, and it's still like when you get to college, when you're beyond college, when you're in the pros, when you're with the national team, when you're whatever it might be, to me, every single day is an opportunity to develop as a player. And I think if you embrace that, and that's something that you want to do, then it needs to be a daily commitment to that goal. What's awesome about soccer is that you don't need to spend 6, 7, 8 hours in the gym like a gymnast might or a swimmer might. The amount of time that those athletes spend in the gym or in the pool is an enormous amount. With soccer, what's really nice is you can, if you've only got 30 minutes one day, you can become better in 30 minutes. And I love that because everybody's got a lot of things going on in their life, and it doesn't mean that you can't have a great friend group and enjoy things outside of soccer, and you can still become the greatest player that you can be, your best self with it. I think development happens all the time. I think today there is a lot that's stressed on the result. It's very driven by winning. And I think it's really important at any age to stress just really competing to win. More than the winning, it's about competing to do that. And so I think if we can get that ingrained in our youth, I think we'll be better for it.
You're right. I don't know if, how do I describe it? At least here in North Texas, I feel like the current culture does not allow those opportunities. It is the drive for, I wouldn't even say perfection. It's being robots. It is no creativity. It's doing what the coach wants you, and they're playing to win starting at 6 years old or 4 years old. I just saw recently they're starting a 3-year-old team. 2021, 2022 teams. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, when is it looking for a club? And I was just dumbfounded. But
well, I do remember in Dallas it being so competitive, even back when I played, which was, I was born in 67. So that was a long time ago. And how crazy the soccer world was even then. And now it's just a completely different time. And I just think it's important that we all remember, coaches, players, parents alike, remember why we're involved in sports and what are the goals of them? What do we want to get out of it? It's just growth. It's growth as people, it's growth as players. But I do remember in Dallas it being extremely competitive even then, because back when I was growing up, Dallas was one of the few hotbeds of girls soccer. Texas and California, and really North Texas. South Texas came along a little bit later. Towards the end of my probably high school years is when South Texas really started to really improve. But it was North Texas and California all the way. Those were the two hotbeds for girls soccer. So Texas was competitive before its time. North Texas was. But it also was, I felt like, the greatest place to grow up as a soccer player.
Now,
The opportunities to play and to go up to Inwood Soccer Center and play three versus three and play on a men's team and play on a co-ed team and blah, blah, blah. I could play every day there and love it. And it just grew and grew and grew to where it became certainly my passion and my sister's as well. So we were very lucky. I felt it was the perfect place to be as a soccer player. Dallas was.
Now, talking about Dallas in this area right now, seeing, and since you're on the collegiate side, I feel like you're probably still just as exposed to the cultures around the country, more so than anyone else. Looking at the time that you played and through your time growing up and being an adult and now coaching and everything, how do you see it compared to when you were a child growing up here and how the culture is here now today in North Texas? Do you still see it similar, or is there a shift coming that we do not see here in North Texas because we're too prideful?
I'm sure the growth in North Texas is pretty parallel with the growth just in the country and in the game worldwide. There's similar patterns that you see. And really, I remember the reason we played pickup so much is we only have 2 practices a week, and then we would play a local game on the weekend. And maybe we would go to 3 or 4 tournaments a year at the most. And so a lot of your time was spent playing with the neighborhood kids or playing on your own, because only 3 days a week were you playing organized soccer with your teams. And again, at the time, really good teams. I was really blessed to have some amazing coaches. And I think that's something that's grown in this day and age is you've got just more opportunity. More kids are practicing more with their teams. A lot of professional coaches out there now that are being paid to coach teams. It's more of a livelihood. It's not just a volunteer basis like it was back when I played. And you could get in some organized tournament pretty much every weekend of your life if you wanted to right now.
Right.
So the opportunities have exponentially grown. The level, the number of players, the level of coaching education to help the coaches get better, all has factored into the growth of soccer all around the world, in our country, and I'm certain in North Texas. But what you find now is there's soccer everywhere. Soccer's strong everywhere. Like I said, back when I played, North Texas was a hotbed. Dallas was a hotbed with California. And now you're finding players all over the country, which is exciting. The growth of the game is clear when you're starting to see all of that happen. I do think when you're getting a situation where there's paid coaches, now there's different expectations on those coaches that sometimes can be put on them. Players getting to college, players getting scholarships. Those different expectations can be put on coaches, which sometimes I'm sure is stressful for them. Youth coaches, I think that can sometimes convolute a little bit about what sports is supposed to be, and can put pressure on the kids and can put pressure on those coaches that maybe sometimes can be unfair. And it's easy to lose sight of why you're playing soccer in the first place when you've got all these other things that are happening. So I think that probably is so different as a club coach than certainly back when I played. But I think that has to do more with the growth of the game, and it's a little bit societal too, I'm sure.
Do you, looking through playing through your career, do you think as you're progressing up, what age did you start realizing that the soccer was your passion, your love, and you wanted to move forward? And we're just talking about all this pressure. Was there pressure to play? You said you had this great childhood playing some great coaches. And I think that is one thing that we have a lot of now is a lot more pressure that sucks the fun out of all sports. I'm not just talking soccer, but when I hear the stat that 70 kids drop out of organized sports by the time they're 13 is 70%, it breaks my heart. And is it because we as parents or coaches have too much expectations on the players, or are you do you through your time do you see a shift moving back the other way where it's more about enjoyment and development, or do you have an answer for this because it's such a broad question?
I think it's a great question. I do. I think there are a lot of players that burn out early or end up not loving the game as much as maybe they once had because of these pressures and expectations of scholarships and college opportunities. And now you've got more pro opportunities, of course, in the women's game. I do think that stat is so, so sad. But I do think there are coaches and parents that can lose sight, again, of the purity of sports in terms of just because of the ambition of it and all the benefits that you can get. And I always say, with opportunities and growth, with the good comes the bad, unfortunately.
Right.
And of course you want to see the game grow. Of course you want to see all these opportunities for young women and young men to go on to play in these other travel and play soccer and make youth national teams or go to college, Division 1, 2, or 3, or NAIA. So many opportunities, which is amazing to continue to play this game. But with that comes a misplaced, sometimes just pressure that are put on these kids to achieve these things. And so people can lose sight of the purity and the beauty of just playing sports because they're fun and they're healthy and they're making you grow into a better person. You're learning so much that you don't even realize. So is there a shift coming back to that? I don't know the answer to that. I haven't necessarily seen it. I remember when my daughter was playing, and both my husband and I are in coaching. So to be a daughter of two coaches is always interesting. I think she actually wrote her college entrance essay on being the daughter of two college soccer coaches. So it was very interesting. But I remember every time I'd say, she's playing town soccer. I said, do you want to try out for a club team? And she'd be like, nope. I'd say, okay. Loved her town team. Loved it. Had so much fun. And eventually she decided, yes, I would like to try out for a club team. So I said, okay, let's research what clubs and so on. And she did and went on to play club soccer. And years later, she said, Mom, I really wish you would have made me play club soccer earlier. And you and Dad. And I said, you know what, Matea? I said, I understand where you're coming from, but I said, I am a big believer in the purity of sports and that kids have to play on certain teams and at certain levels because they want to do it and because they love it that much. And it was okay that you didn't want to play club soccer. It's,
Right.
And so I said, was our philosophy, and this is how we felt as coaches. This is how we felt as parents. And I don't regret it at all. She goes, I think I would have been so much better. And I said, listen, I think you have to have a say in what you want to do, because just like in life, like you have to want to do something. You have to have a passion for that. And if you do that, then you can grow from it. You can maybe become great at that. But if you're forced to do something, if you're made to play club soccer and you don't want to play club soccer, that's a recipe for burnout. If you're made to do these things, it's one thing, obviously school is mandatory. You have to go to school, right? Sports, if you're going to commit to it, then it becomes mandatory. You have to make practices, you have to make games and so on and so forth, but it is voluntary. And so I'm always a believer that you want to play because you want to be there. And that's where you're going to get the most out of your own players as a coach. As a parent, that's where you're going to get the most out of your child enjoying their experience. And to me, that no matter what ambition you have, no matter what level you desire to play at, that always has to be the foundation of what you're doing.
All right, a quick break. This one's for my fellow grassroots coaches. We all know how tough it is to keep every kid engaged and still running a great session when time is tight. That's why I'm excited to partner with Soccer Coach Weekly. Since 2006, they've helped over 50,000 coaches, parents, teachers from all over the world. And here's the best part. As a Chat by the Pitch listener, you can get 50% off a full year of premium access. Just click the link in the show notes and apply the code IAN50. And again, that's IAN50 for 50% off. Plan fast, coach smart, Soccer Coach Weekly.
I think that's missing heavily in our culture. And as you were talking about this, I had to go look it up. I came across a guy when I was coaching. His name is Dr. Travis. I always butcher his last name. Dorsch. I'm not a name. But he's Dorsch. He's out of Utah University. And he runs a program called Families in Sports Lab. And he talks about the commodities of sports and how we as parents have to back off. And as a parent and as a coaching at the time, it really was a humbling moment because it's like we have to let them do their journey. And like you said, make them do the commitment level. And I'm going to try to circle back to your childhood here a little bit more. So as you're playing, what age did you start playing club soccer? Not so much competitive, but more club style soccer.
I guess at 8, my sister and I both got on organized teams. And ironically, my mom put us on 2 different teams. So we would play against each other. And at the beginning, of course, one would lose and one would win. And so one would be crying and one would be happy. And that's when we learned quickly from my mom, there's no crying here. You're gracious in victory and you're gracious in defeat. And she was teaching us without us really realizing it in terms of those qualities. I guess back then, select soccer, I know we had to try out even around the age of 10 and 11, I feel like we were trying out for teams, even 12. It was all club teams. I don't really remember playing necessarily recreation soccer, which maybe my first team was rec soccer and I just didn't know it. The minute we could start try out for teams and select teams, of course, ODP, I was part of the very first ODP event that was ever held. Yeah, whenever that time was, probably 12-ish, we were trying out for teams and select teams and such.
Do you feel the culture from tryouts and the process today? Are you over the coach for a long time now? I'll be honest, anything more than 5 years is a long time in my book coaching because most coaches I know go through cycles. And I look back and coaches I knew 5 years ago aren't coaching anymore. And looking back, do you see the progression of players coming up that are being developed better and being ready for the next phases of, I want to say like U14, U15 than when you were growing? Or do you think it's about the same? It's just the techniques to get there are different.
I think because there's so many opportunities now, 14, 15, 16-year-olds now are so much better than 14, 15, and 16-year-olds back when I played, because there's just more investment and opportunity to develop. The level of the game just continues to get better and better and better and better. When you go and watch while you're recruiting these young players, you're like, oh my goodness, it's exciting. It's really exciting. And I think, like I said, it's the growth of the game has put so much investment into the players, more opportunities to play, higher level coaching, more events to compete, tournaments and showcases and such, to where you almost have to pick and choose what works best with your family life in some ways, because there's just so many opportunities. I like that. I think it's helpful for any ambitious player that wants to partake in whatever opportunities are out there, and you can choose. I think that just the game has grown so much and the talent level and investment has grown so much. But as I mentioned, There's so many great things that come from growth, but then there's some drawbacks. And how can we minimize the drawbacks and keep all the benefits?
Impossible. So you started to play club sports and tryouts at 12 years old. Keep on getting off on tangents on everyone. I'm sorry. How far was it until you realized you wanted to go to college or go play professionally? Was there, I know the game has changed drastically. Kids are going pro at 14, 15 years old now in the United States, but was there an ambition for, this is my path? You said you were part of the ODP program. Was that all funneling you towards an end goal that you wanted? And what age did you start having those dreams and aspirations to use the tools that you had in front of you to go to the next phase?
Yeah, ironically, I think two things happened around the same time. One was the ODP program started. North Texas was going to have a team. As I mentioned, it was one of the few hotbeds of soccer. So John Casaboon had tryouts. My mom's like, hey, do you want to try out for the state team? I was like, yeah. If it meant more playing, I was in. I was like, yeah. I didn't even really know what it was. So that'd be awesome. And so try out for the state team, make the state team. They wanted to just get something going. So literally this was the beginning of the Olympic development program. And it was back when I was basically right before my freshman year in high school. So around 1980-ish was probably when the first event was. And my state team, the North Texas state team, ended up going to national camp as a team. They just invited 72 people in, 18 of which was my state team, the North Texas state team, just to get an event going. And Anson Dorrance was there on staff. Andrew Burhan was there. They had a really incredible staff of coaches. And that was my first experience outside of my club team. And they picked a paper national team. Even though it wasn't even organized, after that, then it started to be, okay, state team. Then you tried out for the regional team. And then the regional teams competed against each other to try out for the national team. It wasn't even that organized, the first event. After that event, then it started to become organized in the way that we know it more today. I was able to make a paper national team, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Now, at the time, we didn't have a women's national team. So, of course, as a kid, you would dream about playing in the Olympics and playing in the World Cup. At the time, there wasn't even an avenue to do that. Around the same time that the ODP program began and I was able to take part in that, I just was lucky that my age was exactly the age of the team that I could try out for. Janet Rayfield ended up getting a scholarship at the University of North Carolina. Janet Rayfield is from Dallas. We grew up with her family. Her dad coached my twin sister. Then we ended up playing with one of his daughters. So they have a huge family and we were good friends with them. So when I heard Janet got a scholarship to play at UNC, I was like, that's the first person I believe that Anson offered a scholarship to ever. Then I thought, oh my gosh, how amazing would that be to be able to do that? So because that happened, I was like, and it really was close to home, I thought, well, that would be amazing. I would love to do that. And so then I could set that as a goal. Youth national teams at the time were just paper teams. There were no events. But I stayed in the ODP program because that really was the feeder at the time for the youth national teams. Again, the teams didn't do anything, but you made a list. That enabled me to see beyond just the club world that I was playing in and be able to set some goals to make these youth national team, even though they were paper teams. And then down the road, when the women's national team came to be, that became a goal as well.
Do you see your goals being stronger and stronger as time went on because the game was exploding and being part of the culture here in North Texas really allowed you to have that gateway into those opportunities? And when you finally decide you wanted to go to college have a chance to go play soccer, was it a all or none deal, or did you already have a college picked out? How was that process for you?
I do think when they became possibilities, then you could set that as a goal. Like before women's soccer became a collegiate sport or there were scholarships, you could dream about it, but it wasn't a possibility. And when I finally saw these possibilities, it definitely got me more excited. It didn't change really what I was doing because I was just playing soccer all the time, but it did change just my goal setting. Gosh, maybe these opportunities could one day be given to me. Maybe the game could one day be more than just playing in the backyard or playing pickup in Dallas or playing with my club teams in Dallas. So definitely North Texas. Like I said, to me, it was the greatest place to grow up as a soccer player. And you knew that the environment was there to grow in. And so when all these things started to happen with college soccer and opportunities, youth national teams, later the women's national team, I knew that I was in the best area to get me there. Really, like I said, North Texas was a hotbed and I could play all the time, every day. So I think that was a huge bonus for me. I felt really lucky to be living where I was living.
Now, as you progressed towards college, was this did you see it as a real opportunity for you to go play? I feel the opportunity to go play back then, I feel is smaller because it was so fresh and so new for soccer to be in college, especially on the women's side. Do you feel that getting that opportunity was something in grasp and that you were able to achieve it, or was it something that you truly had to work for and there was nothing holding you back from making opportunity possible for yourself?
Yeah, I think I knew it was something I was going to have to work for, even though there weren't as many opportunities back then, there weren't as many players either. But playing in the ODP program and such, you saw there was more talent than just what you were used to playing in, which was your local games. It really gave you a more global perspective, certainly more national perspective on, wow, there's talent all around this country, because usually you just saw what you were seeing in your local area. I knew I would have to work. There's no question about it. But because I just loved it so much, I didn't view it like it was just something I just wanted to do every day. But yeah, I mean, with college soccer, it was like, gosh, that was a goal. I wanted to play in college. And I knew at the time there were no college teams in Texas, believe it or not. There were no varsity teams at the time.
Crazy to
And
think.
so I knew I would have to leave the state if I was able to accomplish this goal. And because I had traveled with soccer before, I felt like, okay, I could do that if I had the opportunity to do it.
Now, as you progressed into those high school years and college years, when you finally went off to college, was UNC the school you wanted to go to? Or a lot of kids are like, I only want to go to this school and this school only? Or was it starting to open up for you more and more opportunities you saw because the game was opening up?
The irony is, first, Anson was my ODP coach. So I actually probably played for Anson longer than any other player in the country because I played 4 years for him on the South Regional ODP team. So how it worked after that first camp that he was at, actually, that's where I met him. You would go into regional camp with your state team, try out for the regional team. If you made it and he was the coach, you would stay an extra week, he would train you, and then we would go to national camp. So every week or every summer, I played for him 2 to 3 weeks out of the year on the ODP team, on the South Regional team. So I got to know Anson really well and actually became close with him even through those years. But coming out of high school, a lot of players on my club team at the time for the Defeaters were going to Colorado College, which was also a premier program at the time. And my best friend in high school was going there, and people from my club team, we had gone as a team to see the school. So I was actually leaning that direction. And my mom is the one that, and I wasn't a shy kid, but I was a sheltered kid. So I was very outgoing, but it was all about soccer. I was playing soccer tennis. I was going to indoor games. I was training. So much of it was around soccer. I was pretty sheltered, just almost by choice as well. And my mom said, Tracey, you love Anson. Just go visit. Just go visit UNC. And I said, okay, you're right. I should go visit. And when I went to visit, I was like, this is where I have to be. And so UNC was still the premier program, but Colorado College was in the Final Four, I think 2 or 3 out of my 4 years here. And so it was also a very, very good program. George Mason was a good program. There were a handful of programs that were really good. When I went to visit, I knew this is where I had to be and made the decision when I came home to go to University of North Carolina.
So I just have to ask, because I've only met 2 people now that have played for Anson. And in all my research over the years about soccer, his name just comes up over and over and over again here in the United States, especially for the collegiate side. And I said it when I interviewed Amber Brooks. He's probably one of the greatest American soccer coaches that we'll probably ever have in our country. And I don't know too many people that will say anything different, just because of the influence and the lives he's touched over the last, I don't know how many years he's coached. It's at least 40.
Oh, yeah. He was at UNC. I think this season would have been his 47th season.
It's amazing to me. You're a coach yourself. And I feel like, how do I describe this? I'm not trying to disregard your coaching ability, but I have not came across a record like his and the amount of talent. But learning about ODP, what I just did, now it explains a lot more of how successful he was, why he was so successful. And things you've talked about on Coaching Culture podcast about him really opened up my eyes as listening to why he was successful.
He'll be regarded as the best coach in the world, honestly. Certainly in our country, but in the world. For him to develop the number of players he's developed, to have year in and year out consistently one of the very, very top collegiate programs in the country, even as the game has changed and the demands of the game has changed, North Carolina has always been at the top. That sustained excellence practically will never happen again. 47 years of being pretty much on top.
Right.
That is unequaled. And I don't think anyone is going to be in a position to achieve that again.
Any sport in America.
Yeah, he is. He's one of the greatest coaches in any sport ever that our country certainly has ever seen. And you can put that worldwide as well. That is just how, like you said, impactful, influential from a soccer standpoint. He's just impacted literally countless of lives. Countless. Coaches, players.
It's funny. I was looking up how many players he has coached on the national team or has had some form of influence on. And you probably could count a number of hands that did not have an impact by him versus the number of players that had an impact on him by him. So as you're playing for him in college, how was that for you? Was that something that motivated you as a player to play harder, stronger, faster, better? The stories I've heard of him are amazing. Or was that some of the internal drive that you naturally had? Because I feel a coach can only do so much if there's no internal drive, which we talked about earlier on, or did he just foster that drive for you?
Yeah, I think he fostered it. I definitely had the internal drive, but he created the environment to make that blossom even more and challenged his players. And I learned I always worked hard as a youth player all through my time in North Texas. And I was competitive, but I really learned how to compete at University of North Carolina. Really learned, I always worked hard, but just a different level of intensity and competitiveness that is ingrained in the players here at UNC. And really learned about standards and raising those just being able to do more physically than you even think you can possibly do. You're just surprised how strong you can become when you play at a program like North Carolina. So I do think I had an internal drive, but playing for Anson, the growth that I experienced was just insane in terms of just as a soccer player, just tactically, he just teaches really in simple terms how to look at the game. It all makes sense. He teaches you how to compete every single day and every single minute of every single day. And just that kind of the mental side, the psychological side, he definitely, the mental toughness, the intrinsic qualities, like those are things that you bring with you throughout your life. And he just teaches those through the environment that he creates. The other thing is he can motivate like there's no tomorrow. If you were sitting in a pregame talk with him, afterwards you were like, you want me to jump off this cliff? Okay, how far do you want me to jump? His ability to motivate and inspire players is off the charts. Not only do you have this really highly intelligent, unbelievable tactician and technician of a coach, but you have this coach that is so unbelievably motivating that someone like me, that it was like this match made in heaven, that had this internal drive and had this passion, man, it was like the perfect world for me. So I just felt so fortunate to have him as a coach. And growing up, because I was raised by a single mother, my father had passed away when I was young. My coaches were always a little bit of father figures for me. And I was lucky that I had just amazing coaches growing up. The first coach I ever had, Dave Rich, was literally my father. He was literally my father. And so I just always filled that void that I had through soccer and through my coaches. And Anson, even later in life, filled that void for me where he gave me away in my wedding. And then, of course, I came here to coach with him. I came here because I love North Carolina and I wanted to serve the program that had given me so much. But I also wanted to coach with him and be with him towards the latter part of his career.
I got goosebumps. I can't imagine when you agreed to come on with me, I didn't know how to celebrate because to me, the very little I did know of you just from listening, as I was listening to that podcast, I'm like, I'm not going to email her. She's from Texas. I want someone from Texas on. And she's at UNC. She played for all these wonderful people over the years. She has to have some great stories here. And at the end of the day, I truly believe soccer is a culture, and it's one that's, I don't know how to describe. I feel like a lot of sports are gender culture more, like football, baseball, where they're very closed off. But I feel like soccer, those lines are crossed, and more than other sports because you do have men coaching females, and I feel like there's a lot more becoming more and more female coaching men now, or boys teams, at least here in North Texas there are. And I find it very fascinating that these people, like, they have such a huge role in your life, not just in the moment of coaching you, but years down the road, that you have this familyhood. I don't even call it, like they always say you have a brother and sisterhood. I call it a familyhood because you just become this family, this unit, and it's a live or die culture I'm learning and with each other. So as you're going through college, what was the realization for the next phase of your soccer journey? Were you looking at coaching? Were you looking at continued playing? What was the world like at the time?
It's so funny. I feel like I was at the beginning of all these movements, I guess, if you will. Because when I was in college, like I coached at the Carolina soccer camps, of course, every summer. It was great. I loved being around soccer. I loved coaching kids. I love kids in general. I ended up getting an education degree at North Carolina. And it gave me an avenue to keep training and get ready for the next season. So it was like the perfect job, the perfect summer job for me was doing camps and really enjoyed them. Back when I was coming out of school, it wasn't common for females to go into coaching at all. It wasn't something like kids nowadays, and I've trained players that have said, I really want to become a coach, which is awesome. I love hearing that. That wasn't the case back then, in the mid to late 80s. But I was lucky to come on the heels of gender equity. And so Title IX had already hit, of course, 1972. So I was a benefactor of Title IX. I was also a benefactor professionally as a coach from gender equity. I knew I was going to be involved in soccer my whole life. I just figured it was going to be, okay, I'm going to teach, and then I'm going to coach a high school team or a club team, do private sessions with players. I never, ever in my wildest dreams imagined that it would be my livelihood. It just wasn't something that was happening back then. So luckily for me, once I graduated from college, I was still playing. I was still playing with the national team, still wanted to continue to do everything I could to play for the national team. There wasn't professional soccer, of course, back then. So if you were going to play after college, it was going to be for the national team if you were going to play at a serious level. So I went back to Dallas, substitute taught, got into coaching, and trained for the national team pretty much. And my husband now asked me if I was interested in helping him coach at Creighton while I was still playing and getting ready for the World Cup in 1991. And I said, yeah, that would be awesome, because you can train in all training. You can train in with the team. It'll be a great training environment for you to get ready for the World Cup. I also need help coaching these kids, so you can help me and we can help you. And I said, that's perfect. So I fell into collegiate coaching on the heels of my playing days and just stayed in it. Once I got done with the World Cup in 91, stayed on and coached at Creighton, went on to Clemson, and went on to these other amazing opportunities that I had through having played for the national team and at UNC. And certainly gender equity was a big reason why I probably was able to get the Clemson job, which was my first big head coaching position in college.
You can imagine you're prepping for the World Cup, coaching, and I've always heard, and I've interviewed several coaches that played over in the UK, and they all said when they started to coach, it was like unlocking the cheat sheet for playing. Did you feel that way as you're prepping and coaching in collegiate, and because you were now helping coaching a team versus there's camp coaching and assistant coaching a actual team are two different things? Do you feel like it really opened your eyes differently to the game, or was that already been opened because of the foundation you had at UNC?
I think it's funny, I retired from competitive soccer at 26 because I was done with the national team. I had gotten into coaching, and it's so young, but there really weren't the same opportunities to continue playing after college then as there certainly are now. Now
Right.
there's so much with professional soccer. So if I would have coached longer while I was playing, I know it would have made me an even better player. And it's funny that you mentioned that. We had a player at Arizona State, Amy Lepelbet, who played for the under 20 national team, played on the women's national team. And we coached her at ASU, and I told her, I would ask her questions. I said, okay, Amy, when in the back line do you drop? Because she did it all the time, but she didn't know how to verbalize why. She just did it so naturally. She was such a natural player. And she could rarely answer the questions that I had for her when I asked her directly, tactically about soccer. And then she told me she was going to get into coaching. I said, Amy, this is going to be the best thing you can do, because now you're going to have to verbalize what you do instinctually to your players, and it's going to make you a better player because you're going to have to explain it. And I loved that, and it really did for her. I saw her really grow as a player from coaching and having to teach that to the players that she was coaching. So I know if I would have played for longer while I was coaching, it would have made me a much better player. He taught me so much as a young coach and still does to this day. So those are definitely huge influences for me in terms of like throughout my entire playing and really coaching life.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this first half with Coach Tracey Leone and her soccer journey and where she comes from and what she's doing. And the rest of it will be next week. And so stay tuned, and I hope you all have enjoyed it. Hey everyone, if you guys have enjoyed this podcast, have enjoyed what I've been trying to do, the messages that I'm putting out there, please give me some ratings, some stars on all the podcast sites that you listen to this on. Give me a review, share this, share with others. The more I can make this grow, the more I can continue doing this. I'm really trying to make a difference in our soccer community. So I hope you guys have enjoyed all this. And until next time, I'll see you at the pitch.